Yep. Is it starting?
I already did.
Yeah? Okay. Is my thing on? It's on. All right. Hi.
Hello.
How you doing today?
Full.
Full.
I ate too much.
Okay. You ate too much?
Yeah, temptation's real. Food is so good.
Temptation. It's hard to say no when it tastes so good, right?
Yeah.
Um.
We're talking about the food, right? Okay.
Yeah, of
Just want to
course.
make sure.
Okay, so maybe we should just introduce ourselves. My first time doing an interview. I am Zoe. I am sitting with
My name's Rick.
Rick.
Just Rick.
Just Rick. Also happens to be my fiance. And so I decided to interview you today because I watched you in an interview, a podcast today, and I thought I would ask some questions myself because I feel like there's a lot that we didn't get to see. So, one, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do, who you are?
Wow. Okay.
No pressure.
And no, I'm just another human trying to figure out what I'm good at and what I'm not and where I stand in this piece of the puzzle we call life and the world. And yeah, my name's Rick, and I have a YouTube channel where I show other individuals how I trade, the strategies that I implement in the market, transparently showing how I'm entering, exiting the market, how much I'm making, how much I'm losing, what strategies I'm using within the market to interpret statistical bets that work over a period of time that I've developed over the course of the 8 years that I've been trading. And I try to do that so that way others don't experience the same ebbs and flows that I experienced over the course of 8 years in order to fill the gap between where they can be and where they are. So that way they can also be successful and not throw in the towel. And the many times that I've gone through some tribulation where I've almost felt like I needed to give up because I don't know what the hell I was doing. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I work on right now. And that's who I am.
Great.
A small fragment of who I am, because I'm also a father, a fiance, a brother, and a son to, but mostly that for now.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, so for some people who don't know what day trading is, it's
right.
like, so there's a stock market. I think the words like day trading, stock market makes more sense to some people. And so it's something that he does every day live, Monday through Friday via YouTube. He is Trade with Rick
That's my channel.
Channel?
My channel is Trade with Rick or Rick Castro Trading on YouTube. Google it. You'll find me.
Yeah. That's great. So good. I do want to go a lot more into that. There is like some questions. I put a poll up for any questions that people might have come up with. What?
Okay. No, that's funny.
After watching his interview. And so I do have some. Should we go into those, or do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about the trading and your channel, what you're working on currently?
Hey, this is your podcast. You lead the way.
Gosh. Okay.
You lead the way, honey.
Okay, well, let's talk about just some of these questions first then.
Sure.
Just so we can kind of bounce back and forth between like
what
you do on a day-to-day basis and then just kind of some curious questions that were asked from your fans. Okay, so during the podcast, you mentioned how you don't have social media. So when I met him, we've been together 4.5 years, a little over. And this is Kiwi. We didn't even introduce Kiwi.
Yeah, this is our bird, Kiwi. She's part of the interview, just kind of watching us.
Being cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned how you don't have social media. You haven't had it for, I think you said about almost 6 years. Because when I met you, you only had X, formerly known as Twitter, and you used it for what you do now, which is day trading. Yeah. And so the question that I have here is, I applaud you for not having social media. I wish I could disconnect. Should more people stay off it, or do you think you'll eventually give in?
Wow. No, I don't think I'll ever give in. I think once you deviate away from that standard norm of everyone having social media and being a part of this network of a collective network of that is social media. There's so many facets of it, right? There's Twitter, Facebook, X whatever, says how kind of says the last time I used it, TikTok and everything else in between. What happens with social media is there's a very fine line where you're either consuming more than you're producing, or you can't find the balance between the two, or there's so much internal influence that these products, these things that you are essentially become a part of their system or the overall network of consciousness, that you become swayed or influenced by it, and you become a byproduct of these things. And you don't actually find yourself on who you are for yourself as an individual, because there's so many influences in these feeds that lead you or stray you away from what you want to be, can be, or wish to be. And you end up becoming a byproduct of everything that is in this little pool or network of social media. And the AI algorithms are so good at what they do, they just feed you all this crap most of the time. And don't get me wrong, like, social media has its place in the world and it has its benefits. But I think everyone, to answer the first part, should disconnect for a period of time to find themselves outside of these so many influences. You might not notice it consciously, that you're being influenced to make decisions on your day-to-day lives, whether that's in your relationship, your work, how you view certain things. I'm not going to go into individual things, whether politics, political rights, or anything in between all those metrics. You're not really formulating your own opinions. You're just being swayed by the information you're digesting, because that's pretty much the source of all the information you receive day to day. It comes from that little phone there. And it takes away from your individualism, and your critical thinking skills are so important to figure out who you are and how you dissect information, how you're going to approach information, and how you're going to ultimately act on it. So I think, to answer the question, I think everyone should unplug for a while. And will I ever give in? I don't think I ever will. Just knowing where I stand and what I know lies on the other side of that, I just can't see myself going into it.
Okay, so during your interview, you also talked about it being what the new generation is coming into. It's what they watch. It's what they'll continue to watch, like, as they get older, as they get their own devices. It's the future, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so in that, and there being like a balance between you, do you feel there's a balance in between being able to still have social media and be not unswayed by what's being portrayed and advertised to that individual? Because I'll speak for myself, and I'll speak because I do have social media, right? And I've considered, I aspire to be a lot like you, and your mindset, you're very clear, and I think it's great. But I still have social media, and in that, I feel you can tailor what it is that you see and what type of content that pops up on your feed and what you're being advertised based on what you look at. So Definitely. Like, I get a lot of mindfulness posts, a lot of spirituality posts, a lot of positive. It's very positive. Now, do sometimes I spend a little bit too much time on it? I do. So I think, like, maybe there's like a balance there, because talking about your channel, what you do, and wanting to grow that, do you feel like it's possible to grow it to the capacity that you want to without having these other platforms of social media to bring awareness to what you have to offer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question ultimately to begin with is, like, can you strike a balance if you do go back?
Yeah.
Or if you choose not to leave it, can you strike a balance?
Yes, because that's what he does. He takes what I said and makes it make sense.
So can you find a balance? I think you can. The thing is, like, sometimes we're so far in the deep end on one end, since we're so indoctrinated by these systems. Let's call them systems for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
That in order to find a balance, you have to completely deviate to the other side of the pendulum to find a way where this is who I am, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm being fed, and I'm here in the middle trying to receive this information that's being fed to me through an algorithm or whatever it is, or other friends sharing it with you, or it's on your feed because someone else posted it. Do I agree with it? Do I not agree with it? Do I feel compelled to share it? It's a constant conscientious battle that you need to find yourself first before you can strike a balance. So my first instinct is like, well, do you know who you are? Like, really know who you are? Are you swayed easily by other people's opinions? Be honest with yourself. And if you can answer that really well and definitively say yes, then I think you can strike a balance. And I think that these social media, second question is, can I grow the channel to where I want it to be without being socially present in these other platforms? And I don't think I can. I need to find a way where I can incorporate what I'm trying to accomplish within the realms of the social media space. But there's a lot of friction. I haven't been a part of it for a few years, so I'm a little disconnected from it all. So I don't know what it is to have a clickable thumbnail. I don't know what it is to post on these other platforms. I have to ask my viewers, like, what do you guys want to see on these platforms?
Yeah.
I have to take in feedback because I'm so disconnected from it all. I don't even know what it means to post on an Instagram story as opposed to an X post or to a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They're all different ways. These platforms are all tailored differently, and they all require different approaches to the audiences that are being used in these platforms. And yes, I need to find a balance with trying to come back into it, but I don't think I'm going to utilize them for the sake of distraction.
Consuming, right?
Distraction, yeah. Or consumption, yeah.
Yeah, and so with that, he now has a X that I made for him. I think it's important. X is a very popular platform for day trading, and I thought it was essential that he had one again. So while he was live streaming, I put in his email and his name, and I made him an X, so you can find him at Trade W Rick.
Yeah.
And I forced him to post some stuff today, so you can find some of his content that you'll find on his YouTube channel, also available there, but through Twitter. I'm sorry, X. Again, like you said, having to go into these platforms and maybe not even download the apps, just going in. He has an AI platform where he's able to share what he has already posted on his YouTube to just share across all platforms. I think it's important in order to get awareness, because you have an ultimate goal with your channel, which we will go into what that looks like. And you did go into it again in your interview on what your main goal is.
A little bit, yeah.
Let's go into some of your fans' questions. So thank you for answering that. Kiwi, can we maybe move her back to her cage? Chirp
I think she just wants to
be held.
Yeah.
All right. So
you bird.
Question for Rick. Your description of our education system focusing more on memorization versus, say, critical thinking is so true. What kind of student were you?
I wasn't the most optimal student. I wasn't the most intentional student.
Be honest, yeah.
I was a great student. I did well in school.
Let's talk about how you were on honor rolls and how you were in, what are the AP classes?
Yeah, I mean, I had good grades. I did well in testing. I did well, and academically I did well, but I wouldn't say it was directly correlated to me studying and putting my head in the books and trying to achieve doing well in academics. I did not. It wasn't my primary focus or goal when I was a kid. And to be honest with you, I was a good student. I paid attention in class. I did my work. I did well in testing. I did well in my classes. I got A's, of course, but that's simply because I understood school is simply a memorization game. And once you understand that, it really becomes simple to do well in school. Doing well in school is not, I don't want to put anyone down when I say this, but it's not difficult to do well in school. Okay, you just have to understand, how do I memorize things? How do I regurgitate information? How can I take in these data points, and how can I take it in and then memorize at a later point so then I can do well in my test or exam, and that's it. Once you understand it's all going to come full circle. Every single point that I make today, I think, is going to come down full circle to understanding yourself as a person. Everyone's a little different, right? How I learn is different. How you learn is different. How this bird learns, right? But it all comes full circle. It's understanding who you are as a person. What are you entertained by? What are you interested by? What are you swayed by? And once you can dissect all that, you could do well in school. I mean, school is not something that's very, very difficult to achieve and do well in. I did decent in it. I wasn't intentional with it, but I was a good student. What was the second part of the question?
The second part was, what kind of student were you?
Yeah.
The first part was just saying how the education system is more about memorizing versus critical thinking.
Critical thinking skills are something that every person should have, that has been underdeveloped for years. It's something that not many people have inherently. It's not something taught in school at all, to be honest with you, unless you go to college and take philosophy and other classes that help you dig deep, not even dig deep, just scratch the surface of what it is to think critically, right? It's not until you get to college and you probably take some classes that require that skill set in order to pass the class. But I think it's something that should be very much taught early on. It's the reason that the way I talk to our son, I talk to him in certain ways. I wouldn't say talk, I question him in certain ways, right? Because critical thinking comes from within. It's the ability to ask questions, the ability to think critically, outside of the box, think in different scenarios and in different aspects internally. It's not looking for the answer from someone giving it to you or finding it in a context or a book. It's from coming up with your own answer from within by asking a series of questions while having some level of education, some level of common sense, and drawing a conclusion from that, and just doing it over and over, and every single thing you do is critical thinking essentially, but it's not something that's taught. So I think it's just a matter of asking questions. Asking appropriate and good questions can lead you to be a great critical thinker.
Okay. Well, let's just say for some of the parents then, because I do have like a lot of parents on here. when you say you ask questions and you are intentional in the way that you approach any conversation that you're going to have with Ezra. And so for anybody having those conversations with their parents, knowing that the way the educational system is right now, it's not taught how to be a critical thinker. It is more around, like you said, memorization and all of that. What advice would you offer to any parent that has a kid that's in grade school right now, and how to ensure that they are successful in school? Because I myself was somebody who struggled a lot through school.
Yeah.
And you mentioned on your interview that you said that you're taught something and you'll take a few things from it, almost summarize it short and sweet, and you'll use something in your own mind to remember it, and you'll memorize it that way, and you'll remember it forever.
Right.
And kind of that's a choppy way of what you
Sure.
said, but let's just say for people who have kids in grade school right now, or maybe going to school themselves and they still struggle with their studies, like what advice would you offer?
As far as developing their critical thinking skills or memorizing information?
Developing their critical thinking skills, and how they also develop those in their kids who are in grade school right now, with the way the educational system
I think asking good questions that require the in this case the child, in this case to say Ezra, to think for themselves, to come to a conclusion for themselves. In this case, we're going to think in terms of not education but morals, right? Because he's very early on in his development. Okay. So asking questions about academics doesn't really it's really kind of difficult because his foundation is very low. He's in first grade. So second grade. So sorry. And so what you have to do is, in my opinion, is just ask questions. Ask him quality questions. If he's done something good or he's done something bad. Let's just say he did really well in something. How do you think you did, Ezra? How did you think you did when you did X, Y, or Z today? Naturally, that's going to cause him to maybe inherently look back and say, well, I think I did good. And I'll ask him, okay, well, that's great. You think that. Why is that? What made you believe that is true? And then he has to come up with the solution. Okay, well, this is why I feel I did good. And he has to explain. He's now spinning the wheel inside his mind of critical thinking, where he has to come up with an answer as to why he came to that conclusion. And the inverse is true. When he does really something not really well, something that he maybe shouldn't have done, you ask him, why do you think that you're wrong here? I'm sorry, why are you upset right now? First, you got to level with him and say, I'm sorry, why are you upset right now? You got to find out where he's at. And then he explains himself, and then you listen. And then after, you say, well, how do you think this other person feels about what you did? You put his emotion to the side a little bit, you listen to them, but then you maybe question and say, okay, I understand how you feel. How do you think this other person feels about what you did? Then he has to think, and he has to wonder, and he has to ponder and figure out, I think X, Y, or Z. And then again, the question there comes out, why do you think that they might feel that way? And the critical thinking begins. And it's a muscle. It's essentially a muscle. It's a mental muscle you're trying to work out. And this is a very simple baseline operating system to kind of instill that into your child at a young age, is to ask them questions so they can spin the wheel of what it is to think back and reflect.
Yeah.
And come up with their own answers to these things.
Yeah. A couple things with what you said. I think it's deep and it's beautiful. It's also helped me be a better mother, because I was known as what's called a helicopter parent, diagnosed by Rick here. But it's almost like the critical thinking piece comes so much more when we're adults, because a lot of the times, or I can be speaking for myself, but from what my experience has been, or experience that I see, is that it's more of reaction in the moment, protection in the moment. And it's never really, you're not critically thinking, okay, maybe how should I assess the situation? What conversation should I have with him? Instead of just automatically going either and doing for them, speaking for them, whatever it may be. And so with critical thinking, it becomes important where, as a parent, the way that you critically think on your approach with your intention and your approach on how you're speaking to your child, and what you want them to learn from the actions that they did, whether good or bad.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's an important muscle to practice. And I think it goes also hand in hand with what you do every day. It seems like that is something that you probably have to be very well exercised in on a daily basis to trade, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of my training is working out all the mental faculties of my mind. And that's why I enjoy it so much. It's mentally challenging. It's mentally challenging, and I love that. I love to challenge my state of mind, my consciousness, my awareness, all the disciplinary actions that I have to take, check my emotions, check my bias, check my logical and analytical thinking skills. and making good decisions so that way I don't lose money. That way I make money, right? I got to check all these things to make sure that I'm not making the mistakes, because no one's watching over me telling me, hey, don't do this. Hey, don't do that. Oh, you made a mistake here. It's all on me. And I love that because the accountability is there. The discipline is there. In order for me to perform and do well, not only do I have to do well for myself now, I got to do well for everyone else watching live as well. So the pressure is immense, but it's very much welcomed and it's very much entertaining for me. It's something that I have enjoyed so much doing so in trading. It's what makes me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think too. When you were speaking about Ezra, it's like, if something that he did good, well, why do you think it was good?
Yeah.
Same thing with your trades. Like, let's say you have a very successful trade. Why was it successful?
Right.
What did I do? What did I see? Like, what gave me like that full what's the word I'm looking for? You use the word all the time. Conviction. What conviction did I have in this moment that gave, like, solidified, okay, I'm going all in on this or that. Or when you take a bad trade, because it happens. It's like, what exactly, kind of down that same line of questioning that you are having. Okay, good, thank you. Next question. Oh my god, sorry, I'm new here. Okay, question for Rick. You speak very well and frankly speak eloquently. Does this come from reading? And if so, what are some of the best books that you have read? So maybe we can kind of answer that.
Two sections. The first part?
Does your eloquent speaking come from reading?
Well, I'm glad that whoever wrote that thinks I speak.
I wish I knew too.
Very well. I mean, I don't think I speak very eloquently. I think that's a great compliment. I appreciate it. But it does, well, I'll answer the second part. It doesn't come from books, although I do think books are a great resource where you get tremendous value, but I don't think it came from that. I think it's a very intentional thing. I can honestly say it originated from taking a speech class in college that really put the focal point of awareness on me to be more intentional with the way I present myself and how I talk. So it started there. It started with a class, Speech 101 in college. I took that class and it really just kind of spun the wheel and kind of got things churning in me. And I actually started to reflect a little bit on how I actually speak, present myself, what words do I use, what kind of information, how can I present information in a digestible but yet sophisticated to some degree manner that's understood by everyone. And that's something you had to exercise in that class. So one class was good enough for me. I did that, and from there I just kind of ran with it and continued to discipline that and practice it along my life. And this is a result of that a few years later. Okay. Yeah, it's really just been from a class. As far as the books.
No, wait. Well, before we get into the books,
sure, okay.
Let's talk about the speech thing for a minute. Because as you watch this, and as if you've seen his other podcast that he did, he doesn't say like. See, there we go. What else there? Like, that's another one. I say these things frequently, and he's brought it to my awareness over the past 4 years. And so when you say like the awareness piece behind it, it's almost like this constant switch you have to keep flickering back on, because like my home base is to just automatically, I almost speak on autopilot. I just speak in the way that I always have, or the people around me. If you really pay attention at work, we have conference calls, and there's some people there who will tally how many times people say we'll have a name down for everybody and kind of go over it. It's a very fun like thing that we do. And as well as you speak, and as long as I've been with you, I still always say like, only I try to be very aware of it during this interview, and so we'll see how well I did at the end.
Sure.
But it almost just comes out automatically. And so let's just say I never had speech 101. Somebody who hasn't had speech 101, but they care to be able to speak very eloquently or be able to speak well, what would you suggest that they do aside from, because you've told me so many times, but here I am always like,
I wish I can give a definitive answer to that, but I really would just would say, and it's full circle. Everything I say is going to encompass from this one little prism that I say. It's just being very conscientious, very aware of what's going on in here and how it comes out here. Okay. And then constantly reflecting as you're speaking, right? Because nothing's going to be better than you giving yourself feedback. We're our own worst critics, but we are the ones that sharpen the sword at the end of the day too, the best ones at it. So I think reflecting on how we present ourselves every single moment of every day.
Mhm.
And it takes a lot of energy and effort, but at some point it becomes an autopilot thing where you no longer have to focus on it. It becomes very natural to you. But just listen, whether you want to record yourself and talk your
I was thinking that,
conversations,
yeah.
yeah, you can do that. Record your
Mhm.
conversations if you are willing to do it, and then play them back and listen to yourself and talk. And the more awareness you draw to something, the more work you're putting in, and the more work you put in, the better you become as a result.
Mhm.
And so I think simply just being conscientious, being very aware of
Okay.
how you speak. I think just being aware. Awareness can do so much
You talk a
in
lot
every
about
faculty.
awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awareness
yeah.
is it's the very essence of what I am. I am awareness to
Yeah.
some degree. It's everything I can equate to what I do and how I operate. It's a very intentional thing,
Mhm.
and that's the best thing I can do. As far as books go, there's many books you should every person should read, and I think the very beginning one, if you want to get down to just conversation, it'd be How to Win and Influence Friends.
Okay.
That one, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
Um,
7 Habits of Highly Effective People, How to Win and Influence
yeah, How
Friends.
to Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
That one's
Think and
really,
Grow
really good
Rich.
as well. I mean, I read many books, and I think the other one that's really good, The Power of Now.
That's my
That
favorite.
one's such a good book. Once you
Mhm.
read that book, you can't go back.
Mhm.
It's a little Bible, essentially.
It
The
is.
Power
It's
of
my
Now
favorite book.
is, if I start anyone to start anywhere, The Power of Now would probably be the best book, honestly. And
Yeah.
there's many other books far in between, but those are probably the three that I would pick.
Okay.
Yeah, at the
I
top of the
think you
line.
said 4, but yeah. Right.
Possibly, not sure. But
Um.
there's many other books. If you want more books, just ask and I can provide more. I've read a lot of books for sure.
Yeah, I think when it comes to how you said the awareness piece, maybe when it comes to just awareness, maybe work, maybe like health, things like that, different books, that there's the intention behind what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Maybe you have a book to recommend for each of those.
Different facets.
Yeah. And so you can ask, drop a comment. I'm sure
Sure.
that he'll have something to offer. I know for me, like he did recommend The Power of Now as a book.
That was one of the first books I actually told you to read.
It was the
It was
first
a
book.
good. It was a good book.
The book changed my life,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Um, okay, that's all the questions that I had here. Let me see. I had another one. Oh, let's just read it. Someone messaged me about one of the questions that they asked. Okay, so with all of this, with like the awareness piece, you talked a little bit about intention. You are awareness. She's so cute. I can't. Kiwi. Um, with this being who you are and what it is that you do on a daily basis, talk to me about more on your channel and like what it is your goal. What is your goal in what you're doing right now?
The very immediate goal is the journey of trying to learn how to trade. It's a very rigorous and difficult journey. There's no paved road on how to do it successfully. There really isn't. It's not something
Mm-hmm.
you go to school and get taught in and actually tell you not to do it. Um, so there's no real straight line to go from wanting to day trade successfully and actually being a great day trader. So I'm trying to pay. There's many ways to go with that path. Unfortunately, the thing about the market is it's very diverse. There's so many ways to trade the markets. There's no wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I've created a strategy that for me has worked over time that I developed, and essentially I just want to be able to teach someone that can maybe resonate with it or take a piece of what I have to show and allow them to go from here, which is where their journey begins, or wherever they are in the journey, somewhere in the middle, and kind of get to the end point, right? Because everyone wants to get to the end point. And that's the immediate goal of the channel is
When you say
essentially
the
go
end
there.
point, do you mean like making money?
Making money,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, yes,
Okay.
being profitable. And there's many difficulties with becoming profitable as a trader. There's so many issues with it, and most times it has nothing to do with the strategy and has everything to do with greed
Uh-huh.
and all the sins that that
Mm-hmm.
include that come with being a human.
Sure. Well, we could say like let's just say greed. It's almost an emotion, right? And so when you're saying when you talked about the awareness piece and like how you are aware and how you're intentional in what it is that you're doing, somebody who is greedy, they almost have this certain emotion that's on them when they're trying to
Yeah.
trade with, and kind of they get a result that is not profitable, right? Or
Because they make rash decisions.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about trading is a lot of it has to do with psychology and how much discipline you show against all the emotional aspects that comes with trading. So there's fear, the fear of losing money, or there's the greed of not selling, taking profit, or wanting to make more, right?
Yeah,
There's the attachment that, there's the attachment that comes from trading, because you're trading cash, money, that everything governs most things we do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And whatever attachment you have to this paper that we all exchange is going to directly affect how well you do in the markets. And the more you can stray away from it, the better you will do over time. And that's one of the main principles.
Away from what, I'm sorry?
From being attached to money.
Okay.
Being attached to nominal gain. The thing that I preach a lot is trade well and the money will come. Trading well does not mean you're trying to make money. It sounds very counterintuitive. But trading well is simply administering all the concepts of the psychology that I love and enjoy, the discipline, the awareness, the analytical decision making, the perception of what's going on, and how everyone else is seeing the market and everyone's thinking, and trying to take action in favor of that or against that, and make conclusions and create a hypothesis around it based on all the information in front of you in that split second or minutes that you're trading. And and if you do that properly, as a result, money will be what you receive. The problem is that most people try to take a trade and they are thinking about the money as soon as they enter the trade, when it's not about that.
Okay.
If you're trying to day trade, it's not about that. If you're trying to invest, it's a different story. It's a long-term game. But in the small fragments that I'm trading in, and you can see me doing it live every single day, and those are the things that I talk about. I never look at my P&L. I never look at how much money I'm making, how much I'm not making. The fluctuations are changing. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on the reason I got in the trade is because I feel the flow of the market. The market has, in the short term, has ebbs and flows. And I become connected to the market to some degree, similar to what you would say.
You talked about flow state.
A flow state, yeah. I get into this flow state where I connect to the fluctuations of the market because I'm interpreting real data points that give me information or insight as to what can potentially happen within the next 5-10 minutes based on information that I've seen, how much times I've seen it. It becomes subconscious to some degree, but it also requires some sort of intentional viewership, and of being able to take all the data and make an informed decision and take action, right? And then to also not allow the limitations of your greed to not sell the position for profit, right? It's a constant challenge that you have to dig yourself in and out of all day, in and out. And it's like a guy, you see them go work out at the gym. I'm working out. It's just not at the gym. It's inside my mind. Yeah, exactly. It's fun. It's great, and I'm just trying to get everyone to stray away from principle, is away from the nominal aspects of trading, and actually trade for the right reasons. What I feel the right reasons are, at least.
Okay. Okay. Well, so a couple of things to tie into some of the questions that we had already asked you around like critical thinking and the school educational system. These are things: how to trade, how to invest your money, those types of important information that you'll need as you become an adult are not taught in grade school, right? And so with your like what the messages that you have and what it is that you want to do and accomplish with this, teaching these, what do you call them, tools or that you have and what you do every day. And you talked about on the other podcast, is that you care to give this information for free and teach people how to do this so that they can be successful, right? Can you go into that a little bit?
Like why I'm willing to do it for free? What is
no like so with what your mission is, where you want to kind of blow all these almost clouds.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right, I see where you're going. Okay, yes. So because of there's a smoke screen, or there's a smoke screen in the industry where there's no clear path to success.
Really quick, please hold your thought. But there's we talked a little bit about social media, right, and how that kind of influences, and people react to what they see, or they become very influenced by what it is that they're absorbing. There's a lot of these people that you've shown me who trade. They don't trade live. They don't show you their P&L. They're not doing what he does every day. It's like, I know when he's in a position, everyone knows when he's in a position, whether it's green or it's red, or he goes over his P&L, all that stuff. There's these people who don't show that day to day, and they're charging people $5,000 a class to teach them how to trade.
Yeah.
And it's all private, it's all pretend, and like some of these people are very egotistical, they're very mean, they're very degrading from my perspective on
Yeah.
how they're treating these people who are just trying to get some money, trying to invest, or trying to learn. And so social media, it having that kind of impact and influence, because these people are well known on social media, they have a platform, they have a big audience, and because of that reason and the high following that they have, people will go and pay $5,000 for this master class to learn how to trade, right? And so I think getting him on social media and being able to grow the platform where it's bigger almost than any other trader, being able to show and give this information, teach this information, for free or through a Discord, whatever that may be, not for $5,000, but just because you care for everyone to know that this is something that anyone can achieve if they give the right intention and work behind what it is that you have to teach, right?
Yeah, and definitely.
Then, go ahead and go into
it. So there is a lot of this hysteria online where people, because there's no clear path to success in this industry, there's so much opportunity that other people take advantage of because everyone wants to achieve the goal, right? Absolutely. The goal of being successful at it.
Who doesn't want to make some money, right?
Well, not only that, it's like the amount of money you can make, there's no roof, there's no ceiling, technically, right? To some degree. But the problem is that there's so many people on the other side that are trying to, that rip people off, and they create these courses, or they create all these fake things that don't work, and they have no social proof outside of just having a mass following. And they extrapolate money from all these people that are just willing or trying to learn how to trade. And then people have a sour taste in their mouth because of all these bad clowns, calling for lack of a better word, on the internet doing this. And I'm willing, I'm not willing, I'm wanting to, I want to eliminate that from being an issue in this industry. And I want to be the pinnacle of eliminating all these people stealing all these good intention people trying to learn to trade, taking their money. And I don't want that. I want to be able to give everyone the opportunity to get this information for free without having to pay $5,000 for something that doesn't even prove that works because they have no receipts. There's a reason I live stream every day. There's a reason I do this live and I show my screen, I show my P&L, I cover my weekly performance to prove to people that the things that I'm teaching for free work. And you don't have to go out there and pay someone $5,000, $500, whatever it is, to learn something that they can't even show receipts for. They can't even show you live that it works. They don't even live stream to show you that it works, whatever they're selling. So I want to flip the industry on its head and say, hey, all these other clowns out here, they are not going to get away with this any much longer. It's not fair and it's not right, and it has to end.
Yeah.
And because I've been a victim of that crime. Yeah. It took me this long to get here because there's so many my own issues that I had, right, trying to get to this point. But had that not been there too, I might have gone here a little quicker as well.
Yeah, and you've talked about. I'm a fan of his. I do watch his live streams. You talk about that. There's sometimes people. They're here, and there's just like a gap to close, and that you're here to fill in any questions or any of the blanks that it is to help close those gaps. And you make everyone on your chat feel welcome. There's no dumb question. Everyone on your chat, amazing people, very supportive, very positive, and always tell anyone new to your chat and your channel, this is the place to be. Learn from here. Ask him the questions. Like, he's here to answer them. And you go in to depth with any question that they have, even if it's breaking down what numbers are showing on your screen, like what each column means. You take the time to do that and to teach those people because you're so passionate about what you have to teach and what you want to show. And one thing that is like fond in my heart, and something I remember from you very on in the beginning, I think we were not even official yet, we were on a date, and you said there's room at the top for everyone. When you get there, throw the ladder down. Like, there's room for everybody. And I think that you really represent that. It's not about greed. It's not about making the most money possible, or you being the right one, or you being just like this arrogant piece of beep that we see on the internet. Right. You're not that man, and I think that the kind of people that you have attracted into your channel, and the kind of people who email you and you converse with on a day-to-day basis around the work that they're doing for their family and what you're doing for your family, it all kind of comes back full circle, and all the work that you care to do, your intention behind your work, the mindset that you put behind what you do, and then the way that you show up every day. And so I praise you for that.
Okay, thank you.
A couple other questions that I have.
Okay, sure.
These are my questions that I came
All
up
right,
with.
here we go. You ready, bird?
Okay, so one, do you think that trading is for everyone?
Ooh, wow. No, I don't think it's for everyone.
Why?
It is.
Birdie.
There is a specific personality type that it's really easy to get into trading and actually come out alive on the other end.
Okay.
Sound alive sounds very extreme,
I know.
but it's not for everyone. If you're highly emotional, or there's different personality types, right? Just naturally there's just different personality types. Day trading in specific requires a certain type of personality or different characteristics to be able to
let's not say day trading. Let's just say trade. That my question is
investing or trading.
No, trading.
Yeah,
because trading, like, okay, he calls me a swing trader, whatever that means. But you say a swing trader, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, is trading for everyone? Because a couple questions that I have here, which we'll get into each of them, but it's like, one is the importance of investing.
Right.
Do you think trading is for everyone? What advice would you give for someone who has never even looked at stocks? And then why you choose futures trading over regular stock market trading, or I don't want to call it stocks or shares right. Or options. And so I recently dabbled in options, and oh my god, it's very stressful.
High blood pressure, huh?
Talk about high blood pressure. But those are like some of the questions that I have for you. And so, like, when we stay on the topic of, like, do you think trading is for everyone? I really when I say trading, I mean generally, even if it's holding just shares.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I think everyone can find their own way in trading. It's just a matter of how much time commitment you have, and also what kind of personality you have as well.
Okay, so you were saying highly emotional.
Yeah, there's overall in trading, I think anyone can trade. You can swing trade, kind of like what you've shown, right? Swing trading entails buying a position and holding it for a few weeks or months. Or days. Or years, right? Yeah, that's where it gets to a certain point. It's called investing, but yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that categorizes trading in general is a time, right? Allocation. So if you're holding a position, taking a trade, buying or selling shares of a given stock, and you're holding it for more than one day, then you're not considered a day trader. You're considered a swing trader. And swinging is anything between more than one day and a few weeks or months. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then day trading is something on the shorter scale, which is a position that I take, which is, I trade all kinds of ways.
Daily trading, right?
Daily trading within the hour, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, who knows, right?
Maybe a day. Maybe a day.
Yeah. So, and I do swing trade too. But I think that depending on your time commitment, depending on your personality, how much patience you have, can determine what kind of trading style fits you. But I think trading is for everyone. I think everyone can find their way in trading. You just have to have enough intention or interest to follow through and be successful at it.
Yeah, and understand.
Yeah.
So then that can go into, like, the importance of investing, right? And so let's just say, I think investing is important for anybody. Prior to meeting Rick, I never even thought about investing. And so I know how important it is now, right? We shouldn't be, in my opinion, and maybe yours, but we shouldn't be relying on just our 9-to-5 job to pay for the rest of our lives. Because, like, what happens when we're, 60, or we get an injury, or whatever happens.
Sick, yeah,
you get sick. What happens then? And so that's why investing as early as possible, 18, whatever that may look like, or whatever age you are going to be, investing is important. And so what other investing, I don't want to say strategies, but what types of investing would you suggest for people, let's just say, within trading, or swing trading, or whatever, holding for years on end, whatever that may look like, or maybe having a specific 401k, or I know you've mentioned other specific type of savings that people can have. What type of investing do you think is important? And why it's important?
That's going to vary a lot on, like, how old you are, when do you start, how much money you have. But I think everyone should invest. And there's different vehicles to invest through, right?
Let's talk about that.
The most common one is going to be your 401k. Everyone has access to that. You have a W-2 job, you have a 401k, you can have allocations. Most of your jobs will match whatever you contribute. That's probably your best bet. right? If you don't know where to start, make sure you have a 401k if you have a job. Make sure,
okay,
yeah, that's probably like everyone should inherently have that.
Okay.
Why? Because there's so many reasons. Well, 401k for one, you can roll it over from job to job. So if you go from one job to the next, roll it over to the next one, and it continues, right? It builds on, and it snowballs. The thing is, you can do with that is, of course, that's going to be your nesting egg or your retirement. But if you wanted to use that for, say, a purchase of a home, if you're a first-time home buyer, you can tap into that. There's a federal law, or I'm sorry, it's federally okay to withdraw funds before 55, I think 65 or 55, without a penalty to purchase a home. That is an investment. A home is an investment to some degree, depending on how you wish to use the asset, right?
Well, let's pause there for a second. Okay, so that is 401k. Let's just say you're a full-time student with a very part-time job that doesn't offer a 401k. What would you suggest for someone in that situation to invest? How can they get started?
Wow, that's a little tough because they're a little tight on cash, but my assumption would be just do as little as you can, dollar cost average. Because of the world we live in now, this didn't exist 5 years ago, where you can buy shares of a company. You don't even have to buy the full share. Say Google's trading at $142. You don't have to buy one whole share of Google. You can buy a fraction of Google. You can put $20 into Google, and at some point in a month or two, if you put $20 every 2 weeks, over time, you will own a share of Google. And that is a beautiful thing that you did not have access to until now. Yeah.
So what about, okay, let's just say someone, because one of my other questions was like, so somebody who's never even looked at stocks or understands how to use the platform, which platform to use, anything like that. Say they're not interested in learning about that because they're just too busy, whatever their excuse may be. How do you feel about using a savings account? Maybe just opening a small savings account that gives you interest.
Yeah, right now is a beautiful time to do that because there's money market funds and CDs and savings accounts that are willing to offer you 4% on average return on some savings, which could be many. There's Fidelity, there's SoFi, Ally. Just look it up. There's tons of different accounts, and that changes with time. But right now, it's probably the best time to take advantage of that. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm just trying to think like from everyone other's perspective. There's some people who just go to school full time, work very little part time, and they can still invest no matter how young, right?
Yeah, and any return is better than no return. So if you're sitting on the money in a checking account, why? If you're not going to tap into it or use it, might as well get some rate of return on the cash. And find a resource. The internet's full of resources on which accounts offer these rates. I know at the top of my mind, SoFi, Fidelity, and Ally offer those kind of rates at this time. I think even Capital One 360 savings account as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that is one. Actually, I talked to you about that one. Okay, great. So you answered the do you think trading is for everyone? Importance of investing. If you can give just like a quick, maybe 3-sentence, the importance of investing, why it's important.
I think investing is something that, wow, I tell you that's already more than 3 sentences.
Okay, go. Give me a paragraph.
Investing is the true path to wealth comes from investing.
The true path to wealth comes from investing. Elaborate.
That ownership is what really creates wealth over the long term. Ownership
as in properties, you mean, or ownership
anything, equity in anything, whether and because you look at it's just statistically what happens. Equity ownership in any business or homes go up over time. Now that sounds ridiculous because it doesn't happen year over year, but it happens over time. You look at any investment over the course of 10 years, thank God for the U.S. economy being what it is, it just naturally compounds over time. You're not going to see it in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, but you will see it in 5 years minimum, and then in 10 years and 20. If you can have equity ownership in businesses that you believe in, or just an index fund that covers all these different businesses, or real estate, or a mixture, you will have wealth over time. It's just guaranteed. It's just a guarantee. How much, that is the question, but it will be guaranteed.
So it's very important.
It's very important. Everyone should do it. I mean,
no, I agree. I grew up as from a very poor family, and I never even knew, not that I didn't understand what investing was, but I never ever thought about investing or what it meant for my future, for myself, for my son, anything, until you came into my life and you walked in with like, you got the savings for a house. Why do you want to buy a house? And I was like, well, to live in it. So you're the one, who kind of walked in.
And what did I say about buying real estate?
Which part? There's a lot.
What did I say when you buy a house or you buy
Never sell?
Never sell.
Never sell. Okay. I'm like,
the beautiful thing about real estate is that you.
Ready for a test.
Yeah, that's all right. The thing about real estate is you can buy an asset like real estate and you don't ever have to sell to get money out of it.
No, you don't.
You can cash out refinance, you
Which
can
we
get a
did.
HELOC, you can rent it. There's so many things. It's such a variable instrument that there's many ways to extrapolate wealth from real estate, that it's a beautiful opportunity if you have the advantage to purchase real estate, whether in the area or out of the area, it doesn't matter. That you can just, it's a cash cow, and you just have to learn what real estate really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just living in it.
I would love to do maybe like a separate little interview podcast with you around just like real estate investing, the importance of it, and how you can at whatever age get started, and like what that looks like, because I feel like there's just so much knowledge that you have there that you've brought into my life, to our life, and to the people in your life, with what you have to share about that. So we'll put a cap on that, a little pin in there, and we'll come back to that maybe on another interview. Bring in questions, and no question is a dumb question, as we always say, and anything that you're either considering or something you have invested in or thinking about investing in, bring it up. And like, he will always offer, I'm very biased, but I think that he has the best advice and opinion and very unbiased solutions to a lot of almost hesitation that we have on taking steps forward. And so anything you have, shoot it in, whether you want to do it anonymously or just message me. There's never no judgment here, and we want to be able to help you with that. Well, he can, and I'll just be the face.
Thing is, I won't ever answer a question based on my own perception of the investment you're asking about. I will ask questions so that I can give you the best tailored advice based on your circumstance, your situation. I will never give you a cookie cutter answer based on what I believe is the solution to the question. I need to know everything. So if you ask me a question, I will ask questions in return. And then with the information received, then I will give you the best tailored answer for your specific circumstance.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I love about you, is that you've never taken a question and be like, oh, just do this, just invest in real estate, just buy stocks, just do what I'm doing on my channel. It's never been that. What's your goal? What do you want to accomplish? What percentage do you want to gain? How much time are you willing to allocate to this? Like, all those things. Like, he really wants to make sure that it fits any individual person that's asking him that question, and the intention is real there. And so I respect that about you, and I really appreciate that. It's good. It's important. It's important that you're not just like, I hate cookie cutter answers. Yeah. Nobody's the same. Nobody's situation is the same. Nobody's home life is the same. Nobody's bank is the same. Nobody's, working situation. Some people don't even have jobs, right. So nobody's situation is the same. And so I appreciate that you do that and you ask those questions. So be detailed in the questions you ask, or I'll just make scenarios for you. Okay. And then that's really all the questions I have for you. Just like when it comes, the last question for you, which is more tailored around what you do, is like, why do you choose futures trading over all the other like options, swing trading?
That's a great question. So futures, they're all instruments. Okay, they're all vehicles, if you will, of how you can. They're all vehicles and how you can maximize leverage. Leverage is essentially, if anyone doesn't understand the term, is for every $1 you invest, there's a certain rate of return on that $1. An instrument like shares is a 1-to-1 leverage.
Which I understand.
So one share is equivalent to one share. Options is one option contract is equivalent to 100 shares. And and then
you make it sound that simple, but it doesn't feel that simple.
Is one futures contract is equivalent to 50 shares of that underlying. So they're all instruments. They all have their reason to be used within the market, and you should invest appropriately according to that, or trade appropriately according to that. So futures is the right amount of leverage with not the right amount of depreciation that options offer. Options contracts are the right to purchase shares, but don't need to be exercised, and it provides an immense amount of leverage. But also with that comes the downside of the fluctuations in variables like theta decay that devalue your options contract, that make you lose money over time statistically, because 80% of options expire worthless, meaning they go to zero. Shares are too slow. They're not enough leverage to provide you to create a meaningful return on your day trades. And futures are the right amount of balance between the three.
Okay, so he got into futures trading about, I want to say it was like
2 years,
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, and I was confused. I'm like, what do you mean you can trade after 1 o'clock?
Yeah. Right.
Pacific time. That doesn't make sense to me. I thought it was interesting. And so you were, when I met you in 2019, you were trading options at the
Options.
time.
Yeah.
And you were very successful in options, but
Right.
it was also what I would call volatile.
It is. Yeah.
I've
Definitely.
taken 2 trades in options, and one thing it did, because I do, like, again, we talked about social media earlier and what you consume, what you're influenced by, and like, you are what you listen to. You are, like they say, you are what you eat. It goes into the saying, you are what you listen to, you are what you think about, you are what you talk about, all those things, right? And so I consume a lot of your content, day-to-day basis, every morning, and even just in our one-on-one conversations. But with trading, you've always talked to me, we've talked about our whole relationship together, and I've done my best to understand. I've done my best to
You do
just really
great.
understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
I started to dabble a little bit into options trading, and I was able to find that in that I took what the message that you share around being intentional and kind of reflecting on the emotions that you're having when it comes to taking trades, because I was somebody who would be like, I should have sold it here, or I should have held it longer. I'm always kind of guy.
Yeah.
I had that
Battling
battle.
internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, finally, like, starting to go into options a little bit, it's a lot more volatile. It's very volatile. It's very up and down. One day I was like, you up 50%, then negative the next day, and so it's like emotionally, like, it does take a lot of awareness, like you said, and a lot of intention, and knowing behind what it is that I'm doing. And so with what he shares and the content that I read and consume there, I was able to have this almost, it felt like an epiphany of like, I'm ready to go into this next trade, and I have the conviction behind what it is that I'm going to do. I know where I'm going to get out. I know where I'm going to sell. I know I'm not going to be greedy. And so I think that that's just a great thing that you teach overall.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was all the questions. Looks like we have one new one that came in, which was, what was it that made you realize that you love Zoe and you knew she was your soulmate?
Oh my God.
I didn't write that, I swear. I've been sitting
Was
here.
that you, Kiwi? Huh? You want to know? So that's a very good question, because it was very early on, and it was something that I could not deny. So before I even really knew you, I felt energetically connected to you, spiritually connected to you, where I was compelled, drawn, magnetically connected to you, to the point where I initiated trying to get to know you very intensely. And intuitively, I felt as though you were very important in my life. I early on asked you, you have a story to tell.
I was a little scared.
Yeah, I was very intentional, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Because I knew that you were going to be important in my life. I just felt it immediately. And I was just felt so attracted to her. Again, she's physically attractive. She's hot. But that wasn't the way I felt attracted to her initially. It was more about the way I felt when I was near her. I felt like I was like a magnet being pulled closer to her. And of course, not having enough information about her, I couldn't just like, hey, grab around or ask her things that I normally would ask a friend or something that I felt connected to. I've never felt connected like this with anybody. But I was very intense in the beginning, right? You shoved me away a little bit. You're like, you're a little intense, man.
Yeah, it was unlike anything that I had ever experienced. Nobody's ever come into my life with so much care, intention, passion, just reassurance like you did. It was very life-changing for me.
I was acting on how I felt about you before truly knowing you. And I think that is where the love and the connection started early on. It was an energetic exchange that I just felt I needed to fulfill, because I knew you were going to be important and significant in my life. And here we are.
Yeah.
So it was very early on. There was a lot of interactions between that initial contact and a little bit thereafter that only solidified what we are now, which was a lot of spiritual and moments and synchronicities that you can't physically explain, that we shared. And I think only that made me more compelled to know that I was right about what I was doing in pursuing you and being with you and loving you. And being so magnetically attracted to you, because the things we experienced, I never felt. I don't even think you could physically explain them.
Yeah, it was alchemy.
It was alchemy, definitely. So I hope that answers that
It does.
question.
Thank you. I love to hear it. And, again, with my intention with this and being able to sit here and interview you, it's an absolute pleasure. And one thing, not having social media and not being such a presence, for everyone to be able to see, I care to share anything that you have to offer to anybody, because whether it comes to finance or relationships, friendships, parenting, anything like that, you have so much to offer and so much insight to give. Always, it's never just like a cookie cutter explanation. It's very like, you ask questions, you care to understand more about the situation, you care to give an answer to help and benefit that person, and you really came into my life and you've changed it in the positive for that way. And I watch you do it on a day-to-day basis on your stream, and you take that time for everybody, and I just respect that so much about you. And I think the least I can do is share that with everybody else today. And any questions that anybody might have, whether around their relationships, their friendships, their family members, being a parent, investing, or whatever it is, I think that it's important that they can ask and you can answer, because
Wow. Okay. Really built me up there. I
yeah,
appreciate that. Oh my goodness.
it's absolutely true from the heart. And it's one of the biggest things that I just love and respect about you. And I think that the least I can do is offer it to the world, because you've done so much to change my life. And I aspire to be just as much like you as possible.
Okay, well,
I think that you're not just a cookie cutter person either. Obviously, you're very intentional, you're very spiritual, you're very aware, you're very intentional, and it's everything that a person, I believe, should be. You're very connected to yourself spiritually, and even emotionally to me. So I appreciate you and all you do.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a little hot here. We're gonna have to take the rest of this interview after off cameras. My goodness.
Thank you so much for sitting with me today.
God bless you. Wow.
And you. And thank you for all you have to offer. And like and subscribe on Trade with Rick. It'll soon be Trade W Rick. But yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. There you go, bird.
Great.